Tangermann, an organization that is in charge of Work Package 7, the Communication and Dissemination Work Package of Trade for SD project, which is the Horizon 2020 research project. And I'm now talking to one of the members of the Scientific Advisory Board, and my very first question is, can you shortly introduce yourself, the organization that you work for, and how you are linked to the project, to the Trade for SD?
My name is Stefan Tangermann. I'm in the happy situation of no longer working for any organization because I'm retired. I'm a retired professor of agricultural economics. I was working in Germany, originally for the University of Frankfurt, and later I had a chair at the University of Göttingen. The last 7 years of my active professional life, though, I was the director for agriculture and later for international trade and agriculture at the OECD in Paris. And after that, I've retired and now a lucky professor emeritus.
And I know that you are also linked personally to some of the project members, because I just heard from one of the person who did an interview that you were coordinating his work as a PhD student. So you have
That's true. I was the supervisor of the PhD work of Martin Lanze, one of the core project members. I've done a lot of work with him. I also have some obligation with Attila Jambo, because at some point he and I were trying to get a project approved that we would have done for the European Parliament. They didn't like our proposal at the time, so that didn't materialize, but since that time we also have some relation, obviously. I've also done a lot of work with Sofia Davidova, who is part of the team on various things that were related to the transformation of Europe at the time the wall between East and West was falling, and we did work in Bulgaria and Poland and other countries in Central Europe.
So you have a lot of experience on working international level, and I guess also in various research projects, but this is also a research project, but we don't want to do it as a research for its sake. We would like to have an impact, and we would like to bring our outcome closer to policymakers. How do you think, based on your experience, how do you think we can bring the project results closer to policymakers to really have an impact?
One thing that's extremely important, let's say, experience that I made when I was lead director, but obviously our work was directly done for government officials, was to write the results up in a way that is not academic, but can easily be understood by non-academics, though in a way that's very sound against any potential academic criticism. So the big art of writing reports in that sense is to be scientifically rigorous, but not to use scientific language. What also helps a lot is to bring policymakers in and actually talk to them, have seminars with them, and confront them directly with the work results. And again, there one needs to be very careful in using language that's appealing to a non-scientific audience. So fundamentally, what I'm saying is speak a language, both written and oral, that is easily digested by non-scientific audiences.
Yeah. When our project was designed 3 years ago, there were certain unforeseen circumstances that happened, like the COVID pandemic or the war in Ukraine. How do you think a project like ours can adapt to this kind of situation? And another question maybe, or another point that you might be able to reflect, how do you think the COVID impacted trade or the stakeholders that are involved in the trade?
think the crisis, the very serious crisis that the world has gone through, starting with the financial global crisis in 2008, but then later the COVID and the Ukraine war crisis, they all had the same impact on people's thinking, which is international trade is wonderful, but we mustn't go too far with it. We must make sure that particularly we have security of supplies of the most important methods that we need for life. The COVID period, for example, medicines, masks, now Ukraine war, food that has become so much more important and expensive. In other words, what will be very important for the project is to indeed consider the trade-offs between the economic benefits that trade can have and the implications it can have on people's concerns regarding the security of important supplies. As far as I can see, the project is indeed looking into such matters, not necessarily because you were so well prepared for the crisis to come, but because the minds were sufficiently open to questions such as what do people feel is most important under the sustainability headings, but they have to do obviously also with the security of supplies, the social stability, for example. How do people sort of look at that compared to the economic sustainability? And that I think is something where in a natural way, the way the project was conceived implicitly also responds to concerns that have now arisen as a result of these crises. If I'm well informed, some elements of the project looking into the implications of the Ukraine crisis, they're explicit questions regarding that. That is a very obvious way, obviously, of dealing with it. I wouldn't suggest we should look too much into the implication of the COVID crisis specifically, because that's something that fortunately enough is largely over. But again, the more general feelings that people have weighing the economic benefits against safety of supplies on the other hand, that's something that the project is looking into, and it will be important even from that perspective.
I promised to have 3 questions, but I also said at the beginning that I might have a bonus question.
Yeah.
And as you spoke now, to me, it reminded me to your intervention in the room when the project leader presented Work Package 1, and he was talking about globalization and slobalization.
Yeah.
And you commented that it's an interesting phrase. How did you interpret the word slobalization? What do you think it actually means?
I took it as relating to the fact that the growth of trade has slowed down, and some regards even less trade than we had in the past. And I took it as a nice way of sort of using a term that sounds similar to globalization, but indicates that globalization now proceeds at a slower pace. So it has to do with globalization, but at the same time also indicates that the way in which it proceeds now is somewhat different from what we know in the past.
So that we have to be ready for changes while we still live in a global world.
Precisely.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.